All right, time to take a look at what's grabbing headlines around the world. Flo Vilmino joins me in the studio. Flo, let's start at stateside. Papers are continuing to talk about this resignation, rather, of Michael Flynn.
That's right. Now, the Washington Post was the paper that initially leaked the scoop that led to the scandal. So last week it reported that Flynn had discussed economic sanctions with Russian authorities before Trump's inauguration. It misled U.S. officials. And this article in the Washington Post today says that Trump is hoping that his resignation will put an end to the scandal. But the Washington Post says this is just the beginning. You can see the article headline here. This episode darkens the cloud of Russia that hangs over the Trump administration. And of course, this scandal comes amid allegations that the Kremlin meddled in the U.S. presidential election. So it's all quite confusing.
Well, Trump's apparent praise for Washington in the past, for the Kremlin in the past, has troubled quite a few people in the U.S.
That's right. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions, according to the New York Times in its editorial today. You can see they're talking about the missing pieces in this Flynn story, specifically who knew what when in the White House. And this editorial points out that Flynn apparently isn't the only one in the White House to have had contact with top officials in Russia. Several associates and campaign officials had repeated contacts with senior Russian officials in the lead up to the presidential election. So according to the New York Times, this whole fiasco underscores the dysfunction and dishonesty of the Trump White House.
Now, the Russia Times today is asking the Moscow Times, what this means for already frosty, it has to be said, Russia-US ties.
That's right. And the Moscow Times says this is certainly a humiliation for the Trump administration. What's interesting is it points out just what Michael Flynn represented for the Trump administration. He was the primary channel of communication between the Kremlin and Trump's team. He was a strong advocate of strong relations with Russia. So his departure could mark quite a change in the Trump relationship with Russia. It could lead to a more Obama-like approach, according to the Moscow Times. That being said, though, a lot depends on the personal chemistry between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump when they finally meet. According to this article, it says only when the two meet face-to-face will they offer the world some answers.
Now, Russian politicians are not happy about the fact that Flynn has been sidelined. They think it's an anti-Moscow move.
That's right. Let's take a look at another article, this time in Russia Today, which is a state mouthpiece. You can see they're talking about a U.S. establishment coup. This article actually quotes a lawmaker, Mike Cernovich, who says that essentially the Republican elite, Democrats, and the mainstream media couldn't stop Donald Trump from becoming president. So now they have a coup. And according to this article, his resignation, Michael Flynn's resignation, is a huge victory for the establishment.
Right, this has all been slightly sidelined, this Flynn scandal, because, of course, Netanyahu is meeting with Trump in Washington today.
That's right. Now, that is their first face-to-face encounter since Trump's inauguration. It's front page news in Israel, as you can imagine. Let's take a look at the front page of the Jerusalem Post today. You can see they're going to talk about Iran, two states, peace. This is a political test for Netanyahu, according to the Jerusalem Post. In its editorial, it says that the stakes are high, but things are looking pretty good. Essentially, Donald Trump campaigned on setting a different tone with Israel, promising to upgrade the relationship in both substance and attitude. And meanwhile, you can see it here in the title, Netanyahu says the two countries see eye to eye. So it's quite optimistic about this meeting.
Other Israeli papers, though, are not quite as optimistic as Netanyahu's been.
That's right. I pulled out an op-ed piece in Yediot Ahronot, which points out, look, we have a friend in the White House for the moment, an unstable, Twitter-happy friend with a big mouth and controversial standards, but still a friend. That being said, though, despite the fact that there will be a lot of goodwill at this meeting, the direction will remain vague. And so you can see here, it says, it predicts that the meeting will end with no final product. Why is that? Well, according to Yediot Ahronot, the U.S. president doesn't have a coherent policy yet when it comes to Israel. And for the Israeli prime minister, he's not getting the support he needs from the right in Israel to put in place, to place a baked product on the White House table, according to that article.
No baked product yet. All right, let's move away from the States. A strange death of the North Korea's leader's half-brother.
That's right. This story is getting quite a lot of attention around the world. It's on the front page of The Guardian today. You can see a photo here of Kim Jong-nam. So apparently he died on the way to the hospital after apparently being attacked at the Kuala Lumpur airport. So in Malaysia, you can get all the details in The Guardian that reports actually on what the South Korean media is saying is that he was murdered, poisoned by two women believed to be North Korean agents. Now you can see here the Kim dynasty family tree. Essentially, Kim Jong-nam was Kim Jong-un's older brother from another mother, both sons of the late Kim Jong-il, both grandsons of Kim Il-sung. So you can see it there in the family tree. What's interesting is this story is getting a lot of attention in the South Korean press. Of course, they always pay very close attention to what happens in the North. This is a very interesting editorial in the Chosun Ilbo that points out that, Kim Jong-nam had been living in self-imposed exile for quite some time. Apparently, he was afraid to return to the North to attend his father's funeral. Now, there had been rumors that he had died several times, and you can see they're wondering, does his assassination point to unrest in North Korea? It's not the first time there have been purges in the family. For instance, Kim Jong-un's uncle was publicly executed in 2013.
Okay, Flo, thank you very much for the International Papers Roundup.